Let me buy you a drink. I love T-Pain. I could put you in a mansion all up there in Wisconsin.
Toilet paper for my allergies. Oh, fuck.
And why do you look like Delilah? Oh, it's just fire crackling.
Oh my god. I'm gonna throw my tissues and everything into it. There's a big piece in there.
That's a lot. Look, you don't know.
Alright, social media.
So big on camera.
Social media.
Should it be censored? What do you think?
Alright. Loki. I mean, there's already like a bunch of censorship, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like people could get banned, and you have to sign like a bunch of waivers and stuff to see like.
Well, do you think people getting banned from sites is censorship?
Yes. But you define censorship. You define censorship.
Well, I feel like censorship has to come from the government. You know, like if you walk into like a restaurant and you start hopping up on a table talking about your political opinions, right or wrong, when the manager kicks you out, it's fair. But if you walk into like a public square and start doing it, and the government's like, no, you can't say that, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
So, you know, people getting banned from like Twitter, I feel like, you know, it doesn't necessarily constitute censorship from that perspective.
Yeah.
But Twitter's a bad example because of the political polarization now.
Like
Considering Elon Musk is practically a government official.
Actually, it's called X.
My bad. Considering
Woke media.
Yeah, the woke media.
Woke media.
It's just straight. It's hellfire.
You're fine. You're fine.
You're fired. You're
at least
fired.
it helps you're nice. I don't know. I was gonna make some bullshit back then. So, now that we have the definition of censorship, should it be censored on all media or specific media? Just like social media, magazines, you know, speeches, and basically everything. If so, which ones? And if so, which ones at what level?
That's a really interesting question.
That's a deep question.
Look at the smoke coming out from under the bark. It's kind of cool. Like, look at that. It's like coming out from under the bark. It's pretty cool. No, come here. Like, look at it from my angle. There's like smoke coming out of the top. Look at the smoke coming out from under the bark.
I see it.
It's kind of dope.
It's like fire.
Sorry, Miss Sheets. Anyway.
It's like fire.
It's like fire or whatever. I don't know. It's great.
So, let's start with social media. I think there should be.
Oh, damn.
I think there should be some censorship.
Well,
Because I'm a big First Amendment rights guy, right?
But there has to be
So
some.
like it's social media.
Well, I think that the clear and present danger like clause that we got from
Shank v. US.
US, like that sets a really good precedent to the amount of censorship that social media needs.
Yeah.
Because like you remember like the early days of internet, not remember, we weren't there, but all statements on the internet should be treated like a statement you're making either to a friend or a public place, because you know there's a difference. Like,
Yeah.
I would prefer if my texts to somebody on like Instagram, where it's just us, I think it would be better if those weren't censored or really looked into, unless they had like flagging terms like mentions of child porn or stuff like that that could lead to like really bad criminal activity.
Yeah. I think the main thing that we're trying to get to is not really like nudity or anything like that, you know, like gore or something. I think it's more like political ideology, you know?
But we do have to establish that like there should be some censorship.
There should be some. I mean, if Elon Musk goes on a tyrant on X saying how the Democratic Party should be lynched, I think that's a clear violation of the clear and present danger, you know?
You know, like libertarians will come up to you and they'll be like, no, there should be zero censorship on social media at all. and they'll talk about how great freedom is, and like, freedom's great,
Yeah.
right? I love the First Amendment. You know, studying to become a journalist, like, it's very important.
Yeah.
But you know, there is a line.
There's a limit.
And like, if you're running a platform that like is full of just straight Nazis, like X right now, you know, the Nazism on that site is ridiculous, and it's only being pushed because of Elon Musk's leadership and them catering to right-wing ideas. And like, I mean, it's a slippery slope. I know it's a slippery slope, but I don't think that any social media site should be allowed to like platform hate like that. Yeah. Like, I think there needs to be more restrictions around online hate speech, especially because like that's where most of the hate that we're breeding in this country starts from. Like, your grandpa was not that racist until Facebook came along. Like, that's just a fact. Like, especially with my grandparents, like, I love them to death, but especially in recent years with the X takeover and Facebook falling victim to so much AI and right-wing pushed content, like, they've become so much more divisive and racist. Like, they're genuinely afraid of Mexican people. I'm like, Grandma, you live in Iowa. Why are you afraid of Mexican people? She's like, oh, they're coming over our borders. They got fentanyl in their stomachs, and they're giving it to our white girls. I'm like, no, they're not. They're really not doing that.
I know exactly what you mean. Okay, so for like,
dude, look at the camera. Oh my god. We got a blaze going
right.
On. Hey.
I saw the smoke under it. It looks really cool. I know what you mean now. That you're being crazy. But I know exactly
goddamn
what you mean.
Doctors keep telling me that I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. I know what I'm talking about.
So we're basically like separating the common person with like people like Elon Musk, you know, like idols. So idols should have like clear restrictions, you know, because it's just kind of just their job. And I mean, at some point, it just stops becoming like something political, and it just straight up just becomes like you're a good person, just being a good person, you know? Because I think a lot of things that people say on social media are just straight up hate, and there's already put restrictions on it, but they stay there for way too long. Like, things get out way too fast. Yeah. And it stops becoming their problem, and it stops becoming everybody's problem.
Yeah, and there's another problem. Like, do you remember that Law and Order episode we watched about the Nazi, like the neo-Nazi leader? Yeah. And the thing is, like, the police could never arrest the neo-Nazi leader because he knew the restrictions on freedom of speech, so he never made speech that caused, like, a clear and present danger. Yeah. Like, he was 100% campaigning for it. Everyone knew that's what he was saying, but he never said it directly. And that becomes another problem, especially in social media, with like Nazis and far right organizers and hate speech groups. They organize on social media, and they're smart enough to be like, okay, we can't say we're gonna go here at this time to burn a cross. Yeah. We can't say we're gonna go here at this time to beat up this group of minorities. Yeah. But they'll say, like, you know, we're gonna have a meeting here, things will happen, or like, at the end of the day, they're still going to rile people up, and they're still calling for hate and violent action. They're still creating a clear and present danger. It's just in the subtext.
Yeah, they're basically just writing the line of freedom of speech. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the biggest problem that we have today with social media. At some point, it stops becoming your opinion, and it literally just starts becoming, well, it just could actually do damage to someone. You know?
And like that's where the line is drawn with censorship, because like, no one is really going to get that upset if you ban a Nazi or arrest a Nazi who said on Twitter, we should go out and kill these black people at this time. No one's going to get really mad at that. What they are going to get mad at you for is if you ban that same Nazi leader, but instead of saying that, he said, like, we're going to have a peaceful counter-protest against the BLM protesters in New York tonight at 8:30. Bring weapons for self-defense. Like, everyone's going to be like, okay, now that's you restricting free speech. And to a degree, yeah. But also, there's a very obvious clear and present danger, even if it's not directly stated. Yeah. So, you know, like, If that's a restriction on freedom of speech, then it's a necessary restriction.
Yeah, because not only are a lot of people are like, oh, you're violating the individual's rights. Well, in a way, yes, but in a way, we're also protecting public safety.
Exactly.
We don't want someone to rile up a rebellion just because he said a couple mean words, buzzwords on Twitter.
But then that also leads into the time-old argument of like personal freedoms versus security. Yeah. And that's become a real hot-button issue, especially after 9/11, with like the government cracking down on things and more surveillance and harsher TSA and things like that. Like there has to be a line drawn between how much security you want and how much you want the government to ensure that we're all safe, and how much freedom do we want. Because like it's a push and pull factor. The more freedom you have, the more likely that chaotic things can happen. Like, freedom's amazing, but
and that literally has to do with like the time period we're living in. A lot of people have more accessibility to that, to Instagram, to X, to YouTube. You know, back in the days, you had to have access to the internet, to the Wi-Fi in the first place, and a lot of people during the beginning didn't really have that. You know, they're rocking the GameCube. They didn't really have the internet.
They're rocking the GameCube. He's got his Jinko jeans on. He's got one of those shirts with like the super complicated designs. He's drinking Mountain Dew Code Red. He's going to school talking about Kirby Air Ride.
It's because like before social media took its like really toll on people, the newspapers, TV, television, they were broadcasted to everybody. So they had to carefully watch what they said, not to buzz anyone. But now social media is selective. Now you have a whole cycle of feeding you information that you'd like to hear, and it becomes less selective, and people know that, so they have more freedom to say low-key whatever they want because there's someone out there who might agree with them.
And social media has let us become so much more divided, and like it's let us exist in these echo chambers. Because like for 50 years, the news was never like three competing factions of different political opinions. It was Walter Cronkite walking his ass out in front of national television, telling you exactly what happened, and then leaving, and leaving you to form those opinions yourself. Yeah. And you would talk about it at like dinner with your family. And now you can choose from like any number of 15 different news sites based on how left they are, how right they are, how centrist they are, and live in a completely different world. Like the world I live in, compared to the world a conservative who watches Fox News every day lives in, is so vastly different. The world I live in compared to the world my mom lives in is different. Because if I'm consuming news, I specifically go for unbiased sources. So I go to like Reuters, I go to the BBC when it comes to global news, or like maybe Al Jazeera sometimes. I mostly stick with Reuters because they're completely unbiased. They just tell you what's happening. Yeah,
make you form your own.
My mom stopped watching MSNBC because they hired a former Republican. Like, she was so mad about like anyone from the right invading her news that she completely switched channels. Yeah. So like, you know, my mom's great. I don't think it's like a bad thing, but like she lives in a different world than I do. We get the world told to us in a completely different way.
And I just think that has to do with like selective things. It's not just social media. You could pick Instagram, you could pick TikTok. It's also in the news. And as time has passed, the news has become more manipulated by political bodies like Donald Trump and Fox News. It's obvious that Fox News has some sort of bias, and it's not just the Republican side, it's both sides. They're both playing these strings upon these large news conglomerates because they just can. And because if you don't like it, well, here's your control, change the channel, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like this is a fault of capitalism in a way. Like as our market evolves, right, we have way more choice and diversity. But that diversity breeds divisiveness. Yeah. Like back in the day, if there was only one kind of like soda, everyone just drank that soda. But then Pepsi, Coke come out, right? And now people are going to war in the 80s over whether or not you prefer Coke. Jesus Christ.
Relax, bro. It's not going to hurt you, bro.
You lit my table on fire. You lit my table on fire.
It's going to go away. Look, it went away. Fucking pussy, bro. I swear to God.
Don't say that on camera.
I'll blur it out. I'll blur it out.
Wait, we should just go back and bleep over all the cuss words instead of editing them out.
I'm going to blur them out. Like, it's burning out.
It's burning up, fool.
You gotta just let it chill.
Just add another log. Stop throwing tiki on.
No more logs.
No.
You don't believe me? You can put a coal. You're gonna put some coal on it?
No, I'm not putting coal in the fire.
Keep putting this tissue.
I forgot what I was getting at. Forgot my whole point.
I forgot.
Something about like diversity breeds divisiveness. I don't know if that's the argument I want to make here. Diversity is great, okay? Diversity in people and opinions is very important. Diversity in selections in a capitalist economy, while great, can lead to some negative side effects.
Yeah, because people are just more divided on what they watch and everything else. So we could agree, because of the large selection of social media that you have now, there has to be some sort of censorship across all of them, just because there's so many options, and they've kind of like parted from that line of informing you what's happening. Now they're kind of shaping what you want to think to happen.
Yeah, I think part of the government's responsibility to ensure the safety of all citizens is to also just ensure that the citizens themselves aren't breeding hate amongst each other.
Yeah.
You know, like at some point the government does have to step in and throw like philosophy out the window and say like you are not allowed to say that about another person.
Yeah.
Like you are not allowed to call for this.
Yeah. And I think the exception to that is just public figures, because their job is to take criticism.
Yeah.
And if they can't, they should be taking another job. But that's one of the sacrifices that's been around for ages. I mean, if you're going to be a public person, you're going to have to take public criticism, even though if it's really hurtful. At that point, it becomes a personal thing. You can take them to court that way. But I think our final saying about social media is just, since there's so many things gonna be fine.
Dude, we live in like the driest state in the world.
Dude, it's not gonna let it
Gotta
fire.
be careful.
I'm gonna put more lighting here just because you did that.
Oh. God,
It was a
Yeah.
second, bro.
it was. That's kind of cool, actually. I like it.
But I think what we're trying to say, to wrap this up, I think what we're trying to say is because the fuck. Because social media is
Tripping over his words. He's slurring his words. He's drunk.
Because social media is so selective, there has to be some sort of rules set by everyone, because it starts becoming a public danger to a lot of people, and it's less about protecting individual right, and it's more about protecting the public security.
Yeah, I think the way that I would justify it is I would say it's the responsibility of the private companies starting the social media sites in the first place to ensure that there's no hatred on their platforms. Like that should be a government mandate. Like your platform should not be allowed to spread hate speech. And if their platform is being used to spread hate speech, even in contrast to what has been ordered and what their responsibility is, that's when the government should step in. Like, I don't really like this, hang on. He's raking the coals.
Keep talking.
I don't like the, shaky alliance that social media sites have with the government right now, where it's like the government will censor it a little bit, it'll check in on certain things but not other things, like some things are free, some things aren't. I really think just clear rules need to be set, like this isn't allowed and this is allowed. And I don't see that happening under our current administration, because our president is smart enough to understand that hate speech is an objectively good thing for him. You know? So, in short, what I'm saying is we need to kill the President of the United States.
Don't say that.
Yeah, you gotta censor that out. You have to censor it.
I will not censor it out.
No.
How many people think I'm gonna agree with it?
Dude, she's gonna share it with like a bunch of 40-year-old men, and they're gonna be like,
No, I'm gonna completely censor it out. They're not gonna know what we're talking about. So it just makes them look like crazy. We're done. This
Woo!
was the public junk.
Yeah, this is the
Junkies.
Political Junkies podcast. Damien almost set my backyard on fire. We
If you
drank
want
Fanta.
another episode, let us know.
Goodbye.
That was fun.